Now, okay. Um, uh, as we go through this, you guys are going to have two different roles. Some of the time I'm going to want you to be teachers because we're going to be talking about standards and we're going to be talking about forms and the 5 practices and all that stuff. But there's also a couple of parts that I want you to be my star students, or maybe not even the starest of students, but to be some students and participate with me as a class. So I will promise to let you know when that changes over. All right. This guide that you see right up here today was provided to you in the pre-work email. If you did not get this in an email for whatever reason, or life has gotten in your way and you forgot to download it, Denise, who is my eye in the sky, my partner in this, is going to be dropping the link to it in the chat box. If you click on that, it will take you to this planning for mathematical discourse. If you were there on day 5, this is not a new form because we discussed it there. So we're going to start filling it in together. If you have not done it, I'll kind of give you some pointers as to where things go along the way. So there are 5 practices, remember, but there's actually 6. I know that makes no sense, but they put in a practice 0, which is all about the learning goal and the task that we choose. So I want to look at that very first part here, and I'm going to look a little bit closer. And I just literally randomly went through and chose a couple of people that I saw as they were logging on. So Richard Griffin, if you could please help me out, unmute yourself and read the first paragraph on this slide for us. All right. Well, Richard, that's okay. I'm going to get, let's say Jennifer.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I didn't hear you say my name. Sorry.
That's okay. Go for it. Will you read that first paragraph for us?
Yes, ma'am. The following was based on the standard 8.9 expressions, equations, and relationships. The student applies mathematical process standards to use multiple representations to develop fundamental concepts of simultaneous linear equations. The student is expected to identify and verify the values of x and y that simultaneously satisfy 2 linear equations in the form of y equals mx plus b from the intersections of the graphed equations.
Thank you so much for reading that for me. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I didn't know how to do that quickly, and we only have 45 minutes, so thank you very much. So it's very, very important that you always keep the standards in mind as you're talking about mathematical discourse, because students can be talking about a whole lot of stuff, and it can even interest you. Like, I know some of you have been in classrooms before, and the students start to talk about something, you're like, that is so cool. And what happens when you go down that pathway? You don't ever get to the standards. So we want to keep those in mind. So Jared Sapp, will you unmute yourself and read the learning goal that I wrote for this one?
The learning goal at the end of this unit is that students can create 2 equations, graph those 2 equations, and explain what the intersection of those 2 equations will be. However, this is our first day on this work, so we are focusing on the multiple representations to see if students can determine the solution to the problem.
Thank you. So we can agree that the standard 8.9 and the learning goal are all about this idea of multiple representations, going from concrete to the abstract. And in fact, it only has to go through graphing simultaneous equations. We aren't talking about solving all sorts of simultaneous equations. So we get an idea by looking at the standard and setting that learning goal, what it is exactly we're going to be doing. So let's do some math, because I know you guys love this. We're going to do a lesson called the Cycle Shop, and this is from Inside Mathematics. It's our website. Not sure why that went back. Let's try this again. All right, we're going to do some math on the Cycle Shop, and what I want you to do is I want you to solve it, but then I also want you to think about other strategies that other students may have solved it. So this is one of those times where I want you to put on your kid hat. You are anticipating what students are going to be talking about, but I want you to actually solve the problem. So when we look at the student work later, you know what it's all about. All right. So Denise, if you could drop the link so that they can pull it up. This tiny URL should take you to, it's called whiteboard.chat. If you've never used it, it's simply a whiteboard on the internet so that we can all do the same problem simultaneously on our own whiteboards. So you can write all over it. Pretty much the tools are the same that you have on your whiteboards in your classroom. All right. So what I want you to do one more time so that we're sure we're all on the same page is you have 4 minutes to solve the problem and to think of some other strategies, at least maybe 2 more that you could have used to solve this problem. Now you'll have 4 minutes and it's individual time. So if you want to turn off your cameras for the next 4 minutes, we will be back together at 3:17 to move forward. All right. I know that a lot of you did not get all the way completed, and that's fine. I'm thinking more strategies right now. Okay. So what we're going to do now is a waterfall chat. So go to the chat box. Everybody find your chat box and fill fill into the type message here one strategy that you could use to solve this problem. You didn't have to do it that way. Maybe it was just something you thought of, but one strategy you could use. Don't hit, no, don't hit question. Don't hit enter yet. Wait just a second. I want to do it all at one time. Thank you for those of you that have already done it. Okay, 1, 2, 3, show them to me. Start that waterfall. All right. We got tables, we got trial and error, elimination method. Woo, I didn't see that in that standard, but you could very much. A chart with literal pictures of bikes and carts and wheels. Plug and chug, picture models. Okay, so you guys have got plenty. If you did not get an opportunity to actually come up with ways of your own, this is a good list that will go with you into your breakout room in the next section that you can use. All right. So don't worry if you didn't get them all written down and you're going, what? I don't even have 3 answers. That's okay. Now you have a plethora of them. All right. There we go. So where the great big check marks are on that original document that I showed you in the beginning, that's where your sample strategies would go. So you may have, the first one might be drawing a picture. The second one might be creating a graph. The third one might be using a table. Whatever the case may be, that's what'll go in that first column. The second column is what we're going to work on now. This is what we call, it was practice 2, and it's monitoring. Now, you might say, Mary, we're not monitoring anything today. And you're right. But monitoring does not take place just in the classroom. Monitoring also takes place before you go in there, creating questions that can help you as you walk around the classroom or as you look at their work on Zoom. So what I want you to do now is we're going to go into a breakout room this time. And you're going to have this document open and you're going to read one of your strategies. Yeah, it's if you can't type into the document and you just have it on your screen, thank you very much, Lee. Just go ahead and take a piece of paper and just jot it down. It was not I think you have to download it into a Word document in order to do it. I'm hoping that's the case. And if not, I'll get it to you, I promise. All right. So one person is going to read their strategy, and then together you're going to brainstorm questions that you might ask about that strategy. Remember, we had questions that were advancing the material, talking about moving the material forward, and we had questions talking about assessing. So we had assessing and advancing questions. So some of the ones will be just about what did you do? How did you get 5? Why did you draw a graph? And others of them will be, how does this graph relate to this table or something along those lines? All right. What questions did I put in your head before we sent you to breakout rooms? All right. Denise has dropped the description of what you should be doing in there. If there's any questions, remember all those strategies are there. And we will see you back here in exactly 6 minutes. So I do want to get some of these questions put down for future reference. So what I'd like you to do, is Denise is going to drop a Padlet into the chat box. And if you click on this, I'd just like each person individually, not going back to breakout rooms, to put down 1 or 2 questions that either you or your group came up with. And we just want to make a great big running list. And I will share those with you in our follow-up email after the convening. Time doesn't let us all share outwardly, so hopefully this is a way we can get some of them. Oh, I like that first one. What are the two unknowns? What are your variables? What do you want to know? What do you know? Make a table. Sure. In other words, go to a different representation. These are some great ones. Some of you guys type like me so fast that an extra letter gets in there. Don't worry about that at all. Oh, these are great. And you guys can continue putting these in here. I want to keep moving forward. All right. So, because we do have such a short amount of time. So normally the next practice 3 would be to select. I'm not going to have you select. In fact, I have already prepared 3 different answers. I asked 3 different people to do some answers for me before we started. And I would like you to have a chance to talk about how you would sequence them. All right. So we aren't talking about selecting them. I've selected 3 different samples. What I want you to do is to, Denise is going to put a link in the chat box. And if you click on the link that she's putting in there now, it will ask you to make a copy of a Jamboard. I did that so that you can each have your own copy so that you can write all over it, make any notes that you want. And so I would like you to look at it before you go to your breakout rooms and really think about what it is that each piece offers. Okay? What each student's work offers. And as you are looking at that, after 2 minutes, we're going to put you right into your breakout rooms again. And then together, I want you to come up with how you would order those 3. And it doesn't have to be all 3. Maybe you see everything you need to discuss in one, and that's fine. Maybe you see that you only need a couple of them. So it's totally up to you. There are so many different ways to sequence this. I'm not telling you that there's a right way and a wrong way. I just want you to discuss different ways that you guys saw to sequence it. All right. So 2 minutes quiet time really quickly. And then we're going to put you back in the breakout rooms for, let's do 7 minutes, Amy, when we go to the breakout rooms. All right, if you watch for that very special invitation to go to your breakout rooms, it should be appearing right now. You'll have 7 minutes to discuss how you might sequence the student work. And again, there's no right answer. So just talk it out and why you think so. I wanted to show you one way through the 3 that I think is one way that you could have done it with the students. So put your students' hats back on now. And I'm going to put my facilitator or classroom teacher hat back on now. So what I want you to do is to go to the chat and tell me in the chat just one thing that you notice about this answer, Doretta's answer. And you can go ahead and just hit enter. Just keep them flowing this time. Yeah. It's messy. Thank you, Dylan. Yes. There were pictures, concise thinking, a visual learner, probably so. Maybe too much going on. There might be a lot of questions that you might have to ask to do that. Made mistakes and kept correcting it. So it wasn't this is one way to do it and I'm going to get the answer. All right. So you mentioned that it was pictures. Were there enough pictures to let us know what the go-karts were and what the bikes were? Do you think there were enough? Go ahead. You guys look at your bottom of your screen to see the word reactions down there. And go ahead and click on reactions.
Zone 1 and 2, zone 1 and 2, you're just
Click on reactions and just put a thumbs up if you think there was plenty of, or a yes is great, plenty of information that that you could tell what was a go-kart, what was a bicycle. All right, thank you very much. And I heard some of you mention color coding. So I apologize, but you only have V dot, so I don't know, but the last name is Wash Hughes. Can you share with us what the color coding meant to you? I'm sorry, that's all I have to read.
Okay, it's me, Mary, it's Val.
Oh,
Val. My name is so long, I was trying to abbreviate.
Gotcha, okay.
So I love color coding because it makes sense to me. So when I saw the blue, I was like, oh, cool. So as you started adding and subtracting, they started color coding it so they could keep it together. That's how it got to me. So I'm gonna start out in blue, and as I start adding, I added colors over here in red. I subtracted things in red over here. I added a number right there so I could keep track of the thinking. That's how I looked at it.
Thank you. Farah, I saw that you had a reaction, a hands up. Did you have something to add to that, or could you add something to that?
Mine is very similar. I did like how the person like used the same pen, was marking off the go-karts and then replacing that to the right. She was kind of self-correcting and making the changes as going through the problem.
Beautiful, thank you. And I have another question. I know there's a lot of you that would like to share with how they did that, but I wanted to know, can anybody tell me why you think Doretta, this is her first sentence, I started in the middle. Why do you think she started in the middle? Why do you think that's a strategy that she felt she had to tell us about? Go ahead and put your hand up if you guys have something to share. Denise is sending me your names because I can't see everybody. All right, Michael says half go-karts and half bicycles. Billy, tell us why you think that's important, that half bicycles, half go-karts. Why is that a good number to start with?
Well, I think the reason why she started in the middle is because it's two numbers. I mean, it's two things. It's an even. And I think that a lot of students just logically think, okay, two. So if there's two, let's start in the middle, just start in half. And that, it's just common, it's just a common, they just think that it should just, okay, let's start in the middle and work our way out,
Sure.
I don't think that they really necessarily think in terms of, oh, this one has 4 wheels and this one has 2. I think she's just working it out. She's just drawing pictures and working it out. And I love the fact that she modeled.
All right, thank you very much. So is there another way though? Because a lot of you, when you were putting it down earlier, you were like, oh, this is messy. There's too much stuff on the screen. I don't even know what's going on. How else do you think that she could have, / maybe even should have, organized her data to make it more concise? Looking for those hands again. Kawana, I'm sorry. I know your hand's been up a couple of times. Please share with us.
Oh, yeah, I don't, that was for at the beginning. I don't have anything for your question you just asked.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'll come back to you if you put your hand up again. Okay. I
Okay.
promise. Kat. What would be another way to do this that would be less messy and all that stuff?
Actually, same thing. I had mine up for the previous. I actually like this visually better than the other two. It made a lot of sense to me. I didn't think it was too hectic. When my kids and I are working stuff out, we always split things in half. even if we know it's not going to be perfectly balanced, because it's a starting point that leads us, hey, we know we're going to have way more here, so we can adjust upwards easier versus down. Like,
Great.
we're big on half and half in my classroom.
Sure, great. I love it. And S. Dixon, I don't know who S is, but Dixon, thank you for sharing in the chat box. Also, that you could take this information and put it into a table so that you could see the numbers without having to see all the other stuff, if that bothered you. So this is Daquan's work. What similarities do you see between Daquan's work and Doretta's work? Again, hands up. Farrah. Farrah, go ahead.
I
Oh,
think it was just not having the visual, just the difference of already making the table versus the visual and kind of marking the wheels off.
sure. And then because of the fact that I just looked at the clock and our discussion's going long, I'm going to cut it a little short. I apologize because we have such a filled day. But from there, I would have led into here where there's two tables. So the other one was like really showing very similar to the picture. And this one has the two tables, one showing seats and one showing tires. And then of course they graphed it. So for those of you that didn't get a chance to share, I'm sorry, but I could go on for an hour and a half. Most of you know that. So I just wanted to show you one way through it with the kids. Did anybody, when you were in your groups, use the reaction buttons, did anybody line them up this way? Is this kind of the sequence that you had? Or did you have a totally different sequence?
Totally different.
Totally different? Kiwana, what did you have then?
You mean when we worked it out, when you first gave us the problem?
Mm-hmm.
I just created the equation.
Thank you. And you know what? Nick asked me the same question when you guys were working. He said, why didn't more people use equations? And what was my answer to him? Anybody have an idea?
Said Kawana and Nick always think alike.
I did. I said, Kawana and Nick are thick as thieves. No, I said, in Texas, we don't do systems of equations until 9th grade. So remember we read the standard first, and don't think you were alone, Kawana. Like literally everybody in here, I was watching you on your whiteboards, almost everybody in here went straight to the equations. All right. I am already 2 minutes into your break, so I'm going to go, you can reflect on this session when we are give you your feedback page or whatever you're at the end, and you can go straight into your break. So I'm going to give it back to Erin.
I'm going to send you guys into break. This is Kate. I'm going to send you guys into break. Let's come back at 3:52. So this will give you 4 minutes, run to the restroom, grab a drink. If you have not already added your campus initials ahead of your name, please do that so we can make sure you get in the right breakout room. If you're a district person, just add your district initials. So 3:52. We will get started with hearing from some different members of the network about their perspectives and learn from some peers. Thanks, guys.